sick.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I won't make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind?
That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It is like being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine low to the ground, extra big oil pan that'll cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when you run so close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it. Those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? I mean, come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. You sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
You gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes, every gear change, every corner, perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it?
what we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back once again to the Grand Prix World Series. This time we are here for round 6 at Istanbul Park in Turkey, and we are set for another thrilling encounter. We can't wait to get this one underway. The enthralling Turn 8 here at the Istanbul Park circuit, a favourite amongst fans and drivers alike, and we will see soon how the Grand Prix World Series gets on, with drivers still fighting for wins, still fighting for the championship. At the head of the points coming into this round, Brendan Hartley at the top on 69 points, only 2 ahead of Marcus Ericsson. Very close between them at the moment. Ericsson last time out, becoming our first 2-time winner of the season. Can he add a third today? Tatiana Calderon and Kimi Sato are also race winners this season, 3rd and 4th in the standings, but falling a bit behind Brendan Hartley and Marcus Ericsson at the moment. They will be looking to catch up as this race and the rest of the season unfolds. Andre Lotterer also in the top 5 ahead of Jack Aitken. Takuma Sato there in 7th ahead of Lucas Di Grassi, both of them on 30 points. Jake Dennis and Alexander Rossi also in the top 10 in the standings. Looking at the teams coming into this one, Fonmetal leads the way on 78, only 1 point ahead of Pacific Grand Prix on 77. Very close between those two, and not far behind them as well as the Dome team on 69 points. They won the Fuji Grand Prix at the hands of Kimi Sato, and they want to keep themselves right in the thick of this battle here for the championship. Andrea Moda just about clinging on to the top 3 as they sit in 4th, 12 points behind the Dome team. MasterCard Lola, race winners this season, alongside Zach Speed in 5th and 6th, both on 53 points. Force India, Scuderia Coloni, LaRousse and Aram Racing make up the top 10 in the League 2 team standings. Now, for a change in the Grand Prix World Series, we have no driver changes to bring you today, so we will head straight down to see what the grid is like for today. And it is Pascal Wehrlein, who has absolutely dominated qualifying and put it on pole position by almost half a second to Mick Schumacher in the MasterCard Loader. A dominant performance by Wehrlein there. But of course, with a quick car, the question of reliability is called in. And can Wehrlein make the flag here today? You would have to put a good bet on him to win the race today, should the Fonmetal make it all the way to the end. Oliver Rowland doing well again in the Zach Speed in 3rd position, ahead of Alexander Rossi in the LaRousse, putting that team high up on the grids for one of their best results of the season so far. Tatiana Calderon, the winner in Yongam, is 5th in the MasterCard Lola. Fabio Lima doing well for the Carlin team in 6th ahead of Jack Aitken, Gary Paffett, Lucas Di Grassi and Dan Ticktum getting one of Real's best results of the season so far as qualifying is concerned. And I'm sure Ed Hunter would be absolutely thrilled with their result there from Ticktum, who is a replacement driver, by the way, standing in for Oliver Turvey at the moment. Ed Hunter still to make a final decision on who the driver is going to be for the rest of the season. Takuma Sato will line up 11th ahead of Teo Porcher in the Dams Viant. Callum Eilert and Marcus Ericsson down there in 14th position. Not really good for the championship contender, but even worse for his championship rival Brendan Hartley, who after the Andrea Modas of Jake Dennis and Andre Lotterer will line up 17th on the grid ahead of Alan McNish, Christian Lundgaard and Luciano Becchetta in the second. Carlin will be there in 20th position. 21st position will be Jaime Alguersuari in the Scuderia Coloni, Mike Conway in the second Real in 22nd ahead of Sergio Sette Camara, Jerome D'Ambrosio, Kimi Sato and Valentino Rossi once again bringing up the rear in League 2. But as I say, the only way is forward for the Italian today. We will see where he ends up come the checkered flag. So, with the grid set, it's time to head down to Tom Cairns and take you through the action.
Well, Pascal Wehrlein is on pole again for the second round running, with Mick Schumacher in only his second Grand Prix World Series race alongside on the front row. We await for the 5 red lights to appear, and once they go out, we'll be racing at Istanbul Park. The 5 red lights are coming on now. Any moment. Lights out, and away we go, and Pascal Wehrlein gets off the line well, as does Mick Schumacher, but watch out for Alexander Rossi coming through in the Larousse, and he's going to lead into turn 1 first. So Alexander Rossi takes the lead of the lead to Istanbul Grand Prix, with Mick Schumacher getting in front of Pascal Wehrlein, and look at Fabio Lima making a move as well in the Carlin, and he's got up into 3rd place. What an excellent start by the Swiss driver. And Wehrlein not getting off to a good start by any means. There's a long way to go yet though. Alexander Rossi leads, Mick Schumacher second, it's Fabio Lima, Pascal Wehrlein. Jack Aitken in the Force India is 5th, followed by Oliver Rowland competing in his 3rd Grand Prix World Series race. His second for Zach Speed is running in 6th position. Then we've got Tatiana Calderon, Lucas Di Grassi, Kuma Sato and Dan Tickton running out the top 10 as they all make their way through the first sector of the lap. Well, what a start. This has been Larousse's best race for a long time. They haven't won since Season 2. And from memory, I think the last time they actually won was in Yongan when Alexander Rossi came out on top on that occasion. They could do with a win today to get their season very much on the right track as we watch Mick Schumacher, who's just been overtaken by Fabio Lima for 2nd place, and he's dropped down. Lima getting off to the best of start. This has been by far his best race in his Grand Prix World Series career. And now we are seeing Jack Aitken going for a move on the pole sitter, Pascal Wehrlein, but Wehrlein reads it. And we are seeing a move from Takuma Sato, making a move on Lucas Di Grassi into turn 12. And he puts himself up into 8th place. Lap 1 completed. Alexander Rossi leads, and he's got a lead of around about 2 seconds, or just under that, over Fabio Lima. Mick Schumacher is 3rd as we watch his MasterCard Lola teammate Tatiana Calderon making a move on what looks like Oliver Rowland, and she has got up into 6th position. So the winner of Yongan making another good start to this race. And now we are seeing Lucas Di Grassi, who I believe has just got back in front of Takuma Sato. So we are seeing a lot of overtaking throughout this first lap and a bit. Takuma Sato coming into the pits at the end of lap 1 with damage. So he has left himself with all sorts of work to do between now and the checkered flag. He's going to have to hope for a lot of misfortune of others to even have half a chance of getting back into the points. Towards the back, we are seeing Christian Lundgaard being under threat from the Pacific of Brendan Hartley, who has been off the pace in qualifying in that silver liveried machine, as has his teammate Sergio Sette Camara. Both Pacifics off the pace, and they're going to find it very difficult, I think, to get anything from this. And we are seeing, look at this, towards the back of the field, we've seen a lot of overtaking. We've just seen Jerome D'Ambrosio making a move on Sergio Sette Camara to put himself up into 23rd position. Now, overtaking was quite a concern in Kyalami for a lot of the drivers, but over here, we are definitely seeing a lot of overtaking. And don't forget the pit stops as well, as we see Jake Dennis coming together with what looks like the Dams Vion of Théo Pourchaire. And we've seen a replay of it now as they come through. And he gets up the inside. Oh, they make contact, wheel to wheel, do the Brit and the Frenchman. Dennis gets through, but Pourchaire has dropped back, and I wonder if the stewards will take a good look at that and see what their verdict is going to be. And it's a 10-second time penalty for Jake Dennis for causing the collision. Wherever he finishes, 10 seconds will be applied to his race time. Right on board with Fabio Lima running in 2nd place behind the American Alexander Rossi. Now, Alexander Rossi, who did 5 races at the back end of 2015 for the Mana Marussia Formula 1 team. And we see Mick Schumacher, who was running at the top end at the beginning of it after qualifying well in Kyalami, but retired eventually with mechanical gremlins. but the pace he has shown since he has made his Grand Prix World Series debut has been very encouraging, which will give team manager Marcus Johansson something to be happy about. Behind Schumacher is his compatriot Pascal Wehrlein, and behind Wehrlein is Jack Aitken, who a lot will remember for his cameo appearance for Williams in the Sakhir Grand Prix in 2020. And there they're coming through turns 9 and 10. Valentino Rossi, who finished in 10th position for Andrea Moda in League 2 in Season 2. That's the last time he has scored a point in the Grand Prix World Series, and he's yet to score a point so far this season. Now, looking at what happened last season in the Istanbul Grand Prix in both League 1 and League 2. In League 2, Marino Sarto led at the beginning before his gearbox had packed up. And with 8 laps to go, Dorian Franchitti in the HRT looked on course for victory before a similar problem had robbed him of a first win, which then saw the Leighton House drivers of Helio Castroneves and Will Power completing a memorable 1 and 2, which had set them on their way to promotion. So Rossi continuing to lead out in front, Fabio Lima in second. The front end of the field very much settling down as we see Tatiana Calderon locking up into turn 8 twice. She had to get the car slowed down there to make sure she didn't run wide, and that's going to allow Lucas Di Grassi to close in a little. Calderon in a Zach Speed sandwich at the present moment. Behind Di Grassi is Takuma Sato, and we are seeing a move from Marcus Ericsson getting through on the ram of Gary Paffett. Ericsson, who had been off the pace in qualifying. The race winner in Senzel and in Kyalami, making a move up into 12th place. As we see Andre Lotterer under threat from Teo Pourchaire as they come towards turn 12. Lotterer fends it off, and he's actually got through on Jake Dennis whilst he was defending. Lotterer getting through up into 14th position. As far as the team's championship is concerned in the Grand Prix World Series in League 2, going into this race, Von Mattel lead the way by a single point over Pacific, and Dome are a further 8 points behind with Andrea Moda in 4th, 21 points off the top. It really is anyone's game for promotion this season in League 2. And we see a lock up there from Valentino Rossi, getting away with it. The Italian who has really struggled so far this season. Jake Sanson in charge of the Dams Vion squad. In the Drivers' Championship in League 2, Brendan Hartley still leading the way by 2 points over Marcus Ericsson. Both are outside the points here at the moment, so it's a good opportunity for the likes of Tatiana Calderon and Andre Lotto and Jack Aitken even to start closing in at the top. There's quite a gap actually between the top 2 and the rest. The upgrade window opens after this round, which will give the team managers an opportunity to improve their engine power and reliability before the next race in Misano. And we are seeing a move from Andre Lotterer getting past Gary Paffett, and we see a lock-up further ahead from Marcus Ericsson. Got the car slowed down in time, and we're going to see a replay from the Swede in how he managed to do that. So as he comes towards the end of the lap into the penultimate turn, and Ericsson just locked up as he went through the apex there, and thankfully he did not lose a position as a consequence. Mick Schumacher holds the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:35.7. Should he keep hold of that, he will get a championship point regardless of where he finishes. Pascal Wehrlein has already got the point for pole position, as will Von Mattel. So we are riding on board what looks like Fabio Lima with Mick Schumacher right behind. Fabio Lima, who had won the GP2 series in 2013. So far in his Grand Prix World Series career, this is his rookie season. He's not had too much to celebrate so far. He's finished in the points on a couple of occasions. That they were 10th place finishes in Sensal and Kyalami. Whereas his teammate Luciano Paqueta has been scoring on more occasions. Paqueta, who's retired from the last 2 rounds, could do with some redemption. That's Lima running wide, and Mick Schumacher's got through, but Lima makes contact with Verline as he rejoined. That looked a little bit clumsy there. Now, was there contact between the two? I couldn't quite tell from that angle there. The camera angle didn't quite pick up on what actually happened, but we should get a replay from an onboard. It was to see Mick Schumacher dive into the inside, and contact is made between the German and the Swiss. Now, we saw what happened with Jake Dennis earlier with Théo Pourchaire. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Schumacher got the same penalty as what Dennis has done, and I am right to believe that Mick Schumacher has been awarded a 10-second time penalty for causing the collision. And for the unsafe rejoin into the path of Pascal Wehrlein, Fabio Lima has also received a 10-second time penalty. So by the end of this race, we could see a different order depending on what the gaps are after all the pit stops are completed. And now we are seeing the Real. It looks like Dan Tixon, or is that Oliver Turvey? I think it might be Oliver Turvey because Dan Tixon is further up in the order. So it's not Oliver Turvey, it's Mike Conway, my apologies. Dan Tixon, who a couple of rounds ago replaced Oliver Turvey. I think so far from what Dan Tixon has done, he's done little to impress, but I think give him a few more races and he could well come good as the season goes on. Ed Hunter, who's in charge of the Real squad. Alexander Rossi continuing to lead, 1.4 seconds over Mick Schumacher. Pascal Wehrlein in 3rd place. Lima down to 4th position, just in front of Jack Aiken. And we ride on board with the Dams Vion of Théo Pourchaire, Formula 2 runner-up last year, Formula 2 champion-elect this year. He's into the slipstream of the Ram of Gary Paffett. And so the young Frenchman is pulling alongside to the outside. And he can't quite get the move done there. Paffett locks up into turn 12 but gets away with it. And Porsche he had to lift off the throttle there to avoid contact, which has allowed the likes of Dennis and co to close back in. Right on board with the Mastercard Lola of Mick Schumacher chasing after Alexander Rossi. And Christian Lundgaard, who's under attack from the Carlin of Luciano Paqueta. Paqueta has been off the pace for this round. So looking at where the drivers are in terms of positions from where they were on the grid, Pascal Wehrlein's down 2. Mick Schumacher's in the same position as he was on the grid. Oliver Rowland is down 3. Alexander Rossi is up 3. Tatiana Calderon is down 2. Fabio Lima is up 2. And Gary Paffett is down 6. Lucas Di Grassi is down, or up, sorry, he's up 1. And Dan Tixon's in the same position as he was on the grid. We are seeing an overtake from the Downs Vion, and it's Théo Pourchaire getting through on Gary Paffett, and 14th position goes to the Frenchman. And now he can set about catching the German Andre Lotterer. Further back we can see a Coloni. And now we are focusing on Mike Conway in the Real. Into the slipstream. It's very effective, the slipstream on this course. Conway getting through on Paqueta and going up into 20th position. All 26 drivers are still running. Kamir Sato running at the back in last position. He didn't qualify very well, unfortunately. He started 25th and he ended up with damage on the first lap, hence why he came into the pits to get some repair work done. And he finds himself with a long afternoon's work ahead of him. Marcus Ericsson running in 12th position behind Callum Ilott in the second LaRousse. 10 places up ahead is his teammate Alexander Rossi in the race lead. Becchetta is now under attack, this time from the colony of Jaime Alguersuari. Behind Alguersuari is Jerome D'Ambrosio, and it's Sergio Sette Camera, and it's Valentino Rossi with Kimi Sato another 25 seconds back. We're on lap 9 of the race so far. We're not too far away from the window where we expect the two stoppers to come in. And we are seeing a replay. And it looks like Mick Schumacher's in trouble. He's got a problem. Yes, he has. Going through the kink. And Schumacher may be suffering an electrical problem. And that's not a good sign. Alguersuari gets through on Becchetta. And we should expect to see Mick Schumacher in the pits at the end of this lap on lap 9. That's bad news there for MasterCard Layla. At least it moves his teammate Tatiana Calderon up a position. Schumacher comes into the pits. And virtually the whole field will go past him. And this has ruined Schumacher's race already. Even though there is a long way to go yet. So they're all coming through now. And Schumacher will rejoin in 25th position by the time it gets back on the track. At least he'll be on fresher tyres though. And he may try and further cement his chances of getting the fastest lap. And I don't know for certain whether he was on a 2-stop or whether he'd be on the 1-stop. If he was on the 2, I would have thought it would put some fuel into the car for the next stint. If they haven't put any fuel in, then that's a double whammy for him because he'll have to do a third pit stop later on in the race. Ilott under attack from Marcus Ericsson. Both have moved up a position because of Schumacher coming into the pits. And I think we're going to see a change as Ericsson gets up the inside of Ilott and he goes up into the points. Both from Mattels in the points now. Verline in second place and Ericsson in 10th. Lima going back into third position in the Carlin as they approach the end of lap 10. Rossi having no problem so far. Brendan Hartley trying to make up for lost time. Can't get through on the Andrea Moda of Jake Dennis, who's got a 10-second time penalty hanging over him. So just to remind you of those who's got penalties, Dennis has got a 10-second time penalty for the contact with Teo Pourchaire. Mick Schumacher has got a 10-second time penalty for the contact with Fabio Lima, and Lima has also got a 10-second time penalty for rejoining into the path of Pascal Wehrlein after the contact with Mick Schumacher. So 3 drivers have got time penalties so far in this race. And we're on board with the suck speed. That is Lucas Di Grassi with Dan Tixem in the rail right behind him. Tixem having a very good race so far. Real in desperate need of some points after a difficult start to the season. They had a difficult time of it in Season 2 as well. In contrast, LaRousse are having the race of their life so far. Rossi in the lead, Ilott in 11th, as Mick Schumacher is behind Valentino Rossi. And he's managed to catch up to him very quickly, actually, after coming out of the pits. Schumacher not out of the frame of a points finish yet, by any means. We are expecting pit stops within the next few laps, so we should see Schumacher making a move on a lot of the others. And I think he'll go past Valentino Rossi into 24th place. So that's 1 position gained already since he's pitted. Now needs to make a move on Sergio Sette Camera in due course. Now Schumacher and Sette Camera, who raced against each other in Formula 2. Schumacher was in a Prima while Sette Camera was racing for Dams. Sete Camera, who had recently announced his contract renewal with the Neo 333 squad in Formula E, as has his teammate Dan Titsum. I think we saw Mick Schumacher making a move on Sergio Sete Camera. He's moved up another position. So making the most of the fresh tyres is Mick. But he knows he's going to be losing time stuck behind the traffic. Right on board with his teammate. Tatiana Calderon behind Oliver Rowland. Rowland coming through the kink. As we see Ericsson line up a move on Dan Titsum, and he gets through rather comfortably. So no problems for the Swedish driver. Next man ahead of him is Lucas Di Grassi. But he needs to watch his mirrors, does Ericsson, because Titsum has made good use of the slipstream, and he could well go back in front here, but Ericsson reads it and fends him off for the time being. Lima pits him from 3rd place, which will move Aiken up the order. Now this is interesting. Will he get out in front of Mick Schumacher? So we're right on board with Jack Aiken, who's up to 3rd place on track. And Brendan Hartley also pitting for Pacific. Now Brendan Hartley, who finished 2nd in Kyalami last time out. On the podium 3 times so far this season. Championship leader. He's going to find it a tough job to even finish in the points, given his pace in qualifying and how he's been getting on in the race so far. Then there is Rossi. 2 seconds clear of Pascal Wehrlein. Jack Aiken, who's another 3 seconds back in 3rd place. Oliver Rowland ahead of Tatiana Calderon. And there's Mick Schumacher behind Luciano Becchetta in the battle for 20th position. Schumacher getting through on D'Ambrosio on the last lap. And further up ahead we are seeing Théo Pourchaire line up a pass on Andre Lotterer. And that is the Dams Vion going through up into 11th place. Further back we should see Mick Schumacher making a move on Becchetta on the fresher tyres. I'd be interested to know whether Lima got out in front of Schumacher or vice versa. And there's McNish, who's under threat from the clone of Christian Lingard. McNish, who came very close to getting a points finish out of this in a Cologne last season. And Schumacher did get through on Becchetta, and so has D'Ambrosio. Schumacher up to 20th. He's behind Lima, who's in 16th position. So Schumacher was not able to get in front of Lima on the occasion, and the reason why that would have been is because he'd been stuck behind traffic since he had pitted. There is Aiken in P3. Wehrlein 1.9 seconds behind Rossi. And looking at the gap between Rossi, Wehrlein and Aiken to the rest of the field, I wonder if those 3 are on 2 stoppers, because given the pace of what we've seen, I'd expect them maybe to pit in within the next lap or 2, but we'll see. We don't know for certain. We haven't looked on the dashes on how much fuel each of the cars have got on their gauges. But Wehrlein is really eating into the gap as Lima makes a move on the ram of Alan McNish, and that's a neat overtake from the Carlin driver, and he goes up into 15th position. Lima on form today. By far the best we have seen from him so far this campaign, as Rossi pits in from the race lead. Aiken pits in from 3rd position. So Wehrlein will go back into the race lead, and he'll be hoping to get the hammer down. We don't know for certain whether he'll be pitting in next time around or whether he'll be going for the 1-stopper. I would expect Rossi to get out in front of Lima as Théo Pourchaire pits in the Dams Vion. And Rossi does get out in front of Lima by a few positions actually. And Aiken is in front of Lima as well. So that's bad news that for Lima. After being stuck behind traffic, Aiken was able to complete an overcut on him. Roland goes up into second place with Calderon now third. Kim Masato fourth, Lucas Di Grassi fifth, Marcus Ericsson sixth, Dan Titsum seventh, Calamilo eighth, as Christian Lundgaard is overtaken by Jack Aiken into turn 7. Field coming down towards turn 9 and 10. Mick Schumacher is outside the top 15 at the moment. He should be making a move on Alan McNish very shortly. Meanwhile, we have a battle between the Ram and the Force India. That is Gary Paffett and Jack Aiken. And we just see an overtake from Alan McNish on Christian Lundgaard now. And he goes up into 14th place. And there's Jake Dennis, who's running in 16th position ahead of what looks like the Real of Mike Conway. And in behind Mike Conway is Mick Schumacher. There was a lock-up from Jake Dennis. Getting away with it, though. Calderon in P3. And Aiken is due on Paffett on track. An important move. Now he can go after Alexander Rossi, who's stuck behind Andre Lotterer. Valentino Rossi comes in for his first pit stop of the race. Now we'll rejoin in last place behind Kamiya Sato. The two Pacifics at the back of the field. As we see Calderon in third place. Less than a second behind Oliver Rowland. Now Rowland, who's finished in the top 4 in both his Grand Prix World Series races so far. The first one came at the season finale for Super Aguri, where he came home in a brilliant 4th place. And then last time out in Kyalami for Sack Speed, he finished on the podium behind Brendan Hartley. And Verline pits in from the race lead at the end of lap 16. That will see Oliver Rowland go into the lead ahead of Tatiana Calderon. Takuma Sato and Lucas Di Grassi will follow suit. Marcus Ericsson should go through too. Now, the important question, is Alexander Rossi going to get back through on Verline? He should do. It's going to be very close though. Aiken gets through, and I think Verline, is he in front of Rossi? No, he's just behind him. But he's ahead of Aiken. Now the good news for Verline is that he is going to be on the fresher tyres, slightly fresher tyres to what Rossi is on. And he can go after him. Now, Rossi, who's behind Ilott now. Ilott won't want to start fighting with him, because they are running on different strategies. Rowland is your race leader then, albeit temporarily. Calderon second. Then it's Takuma Sato, Lucas Grassi and Marcus Ericsson. Dan Titsum running in 6th place in the Real. We expect him to go on the 1-stop. We just saw a lock up there from Pascal Verlaine into turn 8, or at least running a little bit too deep. Rossi gets through on Callum Ilott. That's a change in position, and I would expect Pascal Verlaine to get through very quickly on the Brit. As D'Ambrosio, who's running in 20th position. Unlucky to miss out on points in Kyalami was D'Ambrosio, as was Aiken. Force India hoping for a good haul of points today. Some recompense. Mick Schumacher in 16th position, albeit for a moment, because he is now ahead of Alan McNish. Albeit temporarily, actually. McNish stays in front. Takuma Sato in P3. Jack Aiken behind Callum Ilott. He needs to get through on his compatriot to stay in touch with the net race leaders. riding on board with the Andrea Moda. That is Andre Lotterer going through turn 3. And Lucas Di Grossi is dropping down the order. I think he's had a problem. Has the Saxby's pulled off? Or at least he's had a spin. Di Grossi's spun off the track. I don't know how he's managed to do that, but that's a costly error from the Brazilian. And that has totally ruined his race big time. Now, Di Grossi, who had a positive start to the season with podium finishes in Sepang and Yongam. Nothing really has gone right for him since. And he's going to fall to the back of the field once he rejoins. So, this is not exactly what Mike Smith, the team manager of Saxby, had in mind. He'll probably let Brendan Hartley go through, and Di Grossi will rejoin in 24th position now. At least that's one less car for the likes of Mick Schumacher and Fabio Lima to get through. Lima is in 10th place now. Mick Schumacher getting through on Alan McNish for 14th. Next driver up ahead for Mick Schumacher is Christian Lundgaard. There is Sato. There's Lotterer trying to make a move on Fabio Lima, as we saw Calderon make a lock up into the last turn. And getting close towards the window where we expect to see the one-stoppers make their stops. But Calderon just locking up into the last turn and getting away with it. No harm done. She's having a better race of it after a nightmare in Kyalami for Calderon. It's the first time this season she failed to score. She's definitely in the fight for the League 2 Drivers' Championship after a promising start to this campaign. A lot of faith put into her, and it's been repaid. Aiken running in P8 behind Dan Tixon, who has yet to pit so far. Alexander Rossi's already got through on Tixon, as has Pascal Verlaine, so it's vitally important that Aiken gets through on Tixon this lap. Go back to Calderon. He's keeping in touch with Oliver Rowland, Kim Sato likewise. As Aiken is about to go past Tixon for 7th place. Change in position for the Brit. And there is Jake Dennis making a move up the inside of the Ram of Alan McNish, and he goes up into 15th position. Schumacher, who's behind Paffett as they go onto the back straight. I don't think he's going to be close enough on this occasion to have a go. Conway is thinking about a move. Mick Schumacher making a move up the inside there of the Ram. Sato heads for the pits, as is Ericsson. So we're beginning to see the one-stoppers make a move. Sato, Ericsson and Lundgaard all coming in. So Schumacher will go through up to 11th place. He's just behind Gary Paffett. And there he is, look, stuck behind the Ram. Lima, who's not too, he's around about 6 seconds up the road from Schumacher. And Schumacher's got that 10-second time penalty coming his way at the end of the race for the collision with Fabio Lima. And Paffett, who is under attack, and that was very nearly contact from Schumacher. And that could have ended in tears for the pair of them, but luckily they keep the cars pointing the right way. Calderon, P2, behind Rowland. Piquet further back in 16th position. I don't think he's stopped in this race yet as Piquet. And we are seeing a move there from Takuma Sato on Sensei camera. Takuma Sato's just made a move on his outlet and getting through on the Brazilian. Next man ahead of Sato is Teo Porcher, and we are seeing quite a congested battle going on in the midfield. There's Mick Schumacher ahead of the two Rams. And it's Jake Dennis in the Andrea Moda in 13th. Jaime Alguersuari in the Coloni in 14th position. And in 15th is the Real of Mike Conway. Di Grassi, who's back up to 22nd place, makes another lock up. This time at the penultimate turn. And he keeps his sack speed on track. No retirements yet in this race, which is quite a surprise. Because hanging in there, we're on lap 21. We're closing on the halfway point in this Lead 2 race. Oliver Rowland continuing to lead. Then it's Tatiana Calderon in second place. Pascal Wehrlein, who's now ahead of Alexander Rossi. And he's effectively into the net race lead. We didn't see the overtake from Wehrlein, but he's now ahead of Alexander Rossi. So the pole sitter could well be the favourite to win this race now. Unless the likes of Roland, Calderon and others have anything to say on that. Now Wehrlein, who's 3 seconds behind Calderon in the last sector of which they've just gone through. Dan Tixon running in 6th place ahead of Fabio Lima. Now he's Conway up the inside of Jaime Alguersuari by the looks of it. I think they're coming in together. Both Alguersuari and Conway into the pit lane. And now Brennan Hartley, who locks up into the last turn, gets away with it just in front of Marcus Ericsson, who's going to get through on him into turn 1. Ericsson gets through, and with cars coming into the pits, he's now up into 16th position. There's Calderon in P2. Having another good race so far. A second behind Oliver Rowland. Behind Calderon is Pascal Wehrlein, who's just under 2.2 seconds back. Yeah, seeing the Colonis there. Jake Dennis sending one up the inside of Alan McNish and go up into 11th position. Lucy Bolwood will be happy with the racecraft that Jake Dennis has done so far. There's Pascal Wehrlein running in P3 on track. Rowland and Calderon continuing to stay out. Kimi Sato is in last position, but he is less than 2 seconds behind Valentino Rossi. It's good to see the field are close together and staying in the race as well. McNish pitting him for his only stop. He will fall to run about the back of the field as well. He'll be on fresher tyres. And Di Grassi is in the pits as well for his only stop. And he'll most certainly fall down to last place. In contrast to his teammate, who's leading the pack. Calderon, who's now under threat from Pascal Wehrlein, who's on the fresher rubber. Now, Wehrlein will know that Calderon is on the 1 stop. And Wehrlein is on the 2. Now, is Wehrlein going to get in front of Calderon into 2nd place? I think he has done. Wehrlein gets through on the Colombian and puts himself up into 2nd place on track. Now, I wonder if Calderon will pit in at the end of this lap. As will Rowland, maybe. Calderon is in. So Calderon has responded and decides to head for the pit lane. So they're both going through turn 2 now, are Roland and Verline. Rossi trying to keep in touch. Tixon pits in, having a good stint. And Ilott also in for LaRousse as his Lotterer. So through turn 12, those towards the back of the field. So let's say Camera pits in for his only stop in the Pacific. Oliver Rowland is now under attack from Verline, who's about to make an overtake, I think, on the Brit very shortly. I think that was Ilott, he's just made a lock up into turn 3. First lap out of the pits. Now, we want to go back to the race lead because I think Verline is going to complete an overtake on Oliver Rowland into turn 12. Is Verline through on this occasion? My assumption is that he's not, according to the graphic. And Rowland is still in front, but he's heading for the pit lane now at the end of lap 24. Verline takes back the race lead, and with him being stuck behind Rowland, that's allowed Rossi and Aiken to close in a little bit. So it's Verline, Rossi and Aiken in the top 3. Lima will go up into 4th position. He has that 10-second time penalty hanging over him. Mick Schumacher will go up into 5th place, who is also carrying a 10-second time penalty. And Jake Dennis will go up, well, who was going to go up into 6th position before he just ducked into the pit lane. Rossi getting through on, sorry, not Rossi, that's Lucas Di Grassi getting through on Sergio Sette Camera for 25th. Porsche's up in 6th place now in the Damsvayon, having another good race. He's just in front of Oliver Rowland, who's just done his stop. Now, I don't know how far he's actually behind the Frenchman. Just have to wait to see what the gaps are once they go through sector 1. Kimi Salto pitting in for the second time in this race, his first scheduled one. And Rowland is a second behind Porsche. As it stands with Lima's penalty, he would keep hold of his 4th place because Schumacher is also carrying the same penalty as the Swiss. Verline continuing on, looking very good for his first victory in the Grand Prix World Series. He raced for BAR, he raced for AGS. And this season racing for the Von Mattel team. Doing a cracking job so far. So Verline, who competed in rounds 5 to 16 for AGS in Season 2 for Phil Kincher's team. He also raced in Season 1 for BAR when he substituted for Sebastian Buemi for the remaining 9 races for Tom Butterworth's squad. Even though he wasn't as consistent as Buemi, he still played a role in wrapping up the team's championship for BAR that season. Tom Butterworth moving on from the Grand Prix World Series. Hopefully we'll see him back in the future, who knows, as a team manager. Jack Aiken running in 3rd place, 2 seconds behind Alexander Rossi. Oliver Rowland in P7, getting through on Teo Porcher. And Sette Camera going for a spin. That's at turn number 4. And he spins the car back around very quickly and rejoins the race. We're going to see a replay of that spin. Yeah, he just couldn't get the car so down, unfortunately. So Sette Camera, who's had little to celebrate so far this season, having another tough day. And I wonder how Kevin McMullen will be assessing his performances. Jake Dennis, who's running in 18th position behind Jaime Alguersuari, and Aiken coming in for his second stop of the race. So it's not long after Rowland had pitted, and we're beginning to see the second round of pit stops already. Aiken is in. He's going to fall quite a bit down, actually. He might even fall out of the top 15. Hartley also pitting for Pacific. This is the 6th round of the Grand Prix World Series. We've been to Sepang, Yeongam, Sensul, Fuji, Kyalami, and now Istanbul, host of the first European race of the season. We'll be staying in Europe as we head to Italy at Misano, and it's off to Dijon-Bourguignon in France. And we head to Brands Hatch, and then Hockenheim, Pannonia, and then Valencia, before we head to South America for a triple header. First one being in Buenos Aires, then Curitiba. And that's a problem for Porsche. That's the first retirement of the race as well. And it's such a shame for Porsche because it was running very, very well. And it looks like an engine problem there of some sort, or maybe a water leak. So Porsche retires. Lap 27 he was on. And finishing what we're saying, we've got a triple header of South American rounds in Buenos Aires, Curitiba and San Carlos. With the 16th and final round over in the United States at Laguna Seca, California. Jack Aiken, who is behind Takuma Sato after his pit stop, but not for long because he's through ahead of him now. Verline continuing to head the pack. And I think with Rowland completing his sole stop not too long ago, is he going to be the favourite to win this race? My guess is no, but you never really know. Because the raw pace we've seen from Verline throughout this race and from qualifying perhaps explains why he is the favourite to win this one. And Rossi just looking up a little bit into turn 3 and getting away with it. He's behind what looks like the Carlin of Luciano Paqueta, who's in a battle of his own. And Tictum's dropped down the order behind Lotterer. Has Tictum picked up a problem? He has, and he's out of the race. Is Dan Tictum. That is the Real gone from this race. And it's a front left suspension problem for the Brit. So not too long after Porsche had retired, Tictum is out on the spot. And Rossi coming in from second place. Where will he filter back out in comparison to Aiken? That's what we want to be seeing. Aiken, who is a couple of seconds behind Calderon. Not stuck in traffic by any means. So I'd expect Alexander Rossi to get out in front of Aiken. He might even rejoin in front of Calderon if he's lucky. And he is in front of Calderon. So if Aiken's going to win this race, he needs to get past Calderon, Rossi and Rowland at least. And probably Verline. Now, if the order was to remain as it is, as far as lead 2 is concerned, Pascal Verline's win and pole position point We're moving drastically up the order onto 37 points. He would go in front of Teo Porcher, Alim Nish, Oliver Rowland, Jaime Alguersuari. Maybe not Alexander Rossi, but definitely Jake Dennis and Lucas Di Grassi, Takuma Sato and co. So he's going to move up the order quite a lot, but he's coming into the pits now. Is Lima and Schumacher going to be doing the same? Lima is doing so. What about Mick Schumacher? Is he heading for the pits or is he staying out there for another lap? No, he's in the pits also. That will hand the lead over to Oliver Rowland in the Zach Speed in only his third Grand Prix World Series start. And Verline is actually ahead of him. Verline's going out in front of Rowland. So if Rowland's going to get past, or he's going to win the race, he has to get past Verline on track. So the time of the pit stop for Verline, he has timed that to perfection. Verline very much the favourite to win this race now. With Rowland second, Alexander Rossi third, Tatiana Calderon fourth, Jet Aiken fifth, Takuma Sato sixth, Marcus Ericsson is seventh, with Fabio Lima rejoining in 8th place behind the Swede and carrying a 10-second time penalty. Mick Schumacher had rejoined in 11th position behind Andre Lotterer. And Schumacher is also carrying a time penalty. Looking very good for Von Mattel for their third win in the last 4 rounds. This time with Pascal Wehrlein, aiming for his first Grand Prix World Series win. Came so close in Kyalami, which his teammate dominated the race and won out by over half a minute. But you never know with reliability. We've had just the 2 out of this race so far. And we've got 14 laps to go. And it's looking good for Ewan Gale and the Von Mattel squad to extend their lead at the top of the team's championship. This is a radical improvement from where they were last season, picking up only 5 points. Well, after 5 rounds of this season, before anything had been taking place. They arrived with 78 points. And with Pacific seemingly not going to be scoring, Dome will be picking up just the 8. Andrea Moda going to be picking up very little at the moment. And Moscow Lola are going to be picking up maybe quite a bit. So I think Von Mattel are going to be extending their lead quite convincingly with the way things are going. We've got the League One race coming up later as well, so do not go anywhere. Verline stretching out the margin over Rowland as Alguersuari locks up into turn 8. And that's going to allow Alan McNish to close back in. McNish up the inside of the Spaniard. He goes through and up into 15th position as Pascal Wehrlein has now set a new fastest up of the race, a 1:35.5, taking that point away from Mick Schumacher. Another point potentially going in the way of the German and the Von Mattel squad. And now we are seeing Alexander Rossi closing in on Oliver Rowland for second place. And he thinks about a move into turn number 5. Not quite going to pull off a move there. Aiken isn't too far behind the duo. Going through turn 8, and I think Ross is going to make a move on Rowland very shortly. Here he goes, up the inside is Alexander Rossi. And that's a change for second place. Chris Hosey will be happy with that. Rowland down to third place. which is where he finished in Kyalami 2 weeks ago. Jack Aiken in 4th. Tatiana Calderon in 5th. It's Fabio Lima in 6th place. As it stands with his penalty, he'll drop behind Sato and Ericsson and Eilert and Lotterer. So he'll just stay inside the points, will Lima. Mick Schumacher's just got through on Lotterer. He's got a penalty hanging over him. As it stands, he'll be dropping to 14th. Or 13th, rather, as it stands. Still some time in the race left, though. Lima is through ahead of Sato. He'll need to get the hammer down and go after Tatiana Calderon. Rossi is now 7 seconds behind Verline, who's just shooting further and further up the road. Going through turn 7 and through the section of turn 8. It feels weird that it's called turn 8 because it feels like 4 corners, really. And that's just how the circuit was put together by Herman Tilke. Istanbul Park, host of the Turkish Grand Prix on 9 occasions, the most recent being 2021. The first one being in 2005. After 2011, it had a 9-year hiatus before it came back as a substitute venue as part of the reshuffling going on during the COVID-19 pandemic, which had heavily affected a number of events that were meant to be hosting Formula 1 in 2020 and in 2021. And there is Schumacher getting through on the Larus of Callum Eilert, and 9th place goes in the way of the German. Oscar Verline running in the lead. His teammate Marcus Ericsson is in 8th position behind Takuma Sato. He's not going to be troubling the leaders. What a phenomenal performance it's been for Verline. 3/10 clear of everyone else in qualifying. As we see Jerome D'Ambrosio. I think he didn't make a position on Hartley there. Didn't look like he did. I think he was just making his way through turn 12. Just the 2 retirements so far. Dan Tixham and Teo Porcher. Valentino Rossi running up in 24th and last position. Looks like it's going to be another race without points for Dums Fion. You are in urgent need of some improvement at the moment, as are Riel, Mike Conway, who's running up there in 17th position. And as I say that, Mick Schumacher has completed a move on Marcus Ericsson. And that's a change in position, and Schumacher going up into 8th place, locking up whilst he was at it, but he got the move done cleanly. Now we look to Callum Eilert, and is that an engine problem up ahead, or is that a lockup? I think that was a lockup from what looked like Takuma Sato into turn 12. Well, there you can see Alexander Rossi running in a strong 2nd place. Oliver Rowland for Saxspeed in 3rd. Jack Aiken in 4th for Force India. Tatiana Calderon for Mars Cordova in 5th. Fabio Lima for Carl in 6th. Takuma Sato for Dome in 7th. Mick Schumacher in the Mars Cordova in 8th. On track, but he is carrying a 10-second time penalty, which, as it stands, would drop him behind Lundgaard in 12th. Marcus Ericsson 9th for Von Mattel, and Callum Eilert in the 2nd Larus in 10th place. 10 laps to go. Been a fairly straightforward one. Lots of overtaking as well, which is great to see. Verline, who's running in first position. 8.5 seconds clear of everyone else. And here is Eilert going for a move on Ericsson into turn 9. And he puts himself up into 9th place. Ericsson dropping down another position. And he'll have Andre Lotterer for company. Mick Schumacher closing on to Takuma Sato for P7. He needs to get on with it now, does Mick. He's going for it. And that's another position up the order. Schumacher through, no problem. He's got another 7 seconds to make up on Fabio Lima. And that will be a straight fight between those two because they are both carrying 10-second time penalties as Bichetta looks to get through on Mike Conway. No move completed on that occasion. Alexander Rossi in second place. Rowland falling back into the clutches of Aiken. Schumacher continuing to get the hammer down. Not sure he's going to have enough time to catch Fabio Lima. They did both pit in at the same time. I think Schumacher will just want to focus, just pull away from Takuma Sato, which he is doing. Build up that 10-second cushion over the Japanese. This is the third season of the Grand Prix World Series, the first one being held in 2020 whilst we were in lockdown in April. The first round in Kyalami was won by the Arrows of Kamui Kobayashi. Emma Butterworth was the team manager back then. We see a move from Jake Dennis on Christian Lundgaard to see him go up into 12th position. Scott Verline's lead is nearly 9.5 seconds. And I will point out, if you are enjoying it and you are considering being a team manager in the Grand Prix World Series, then do please get in touch. You can contact me, Tom Cairns, on Twitter or X, however you want to call it, at TomCairns95. You can also contact me on Instagram at Tom_Cairns22. You can also get in touch with Downforce Radio. There will be an email address in the YouTube description, but if there isn't, there is also a Discord server of which you can join. And there is also the Grand Prix 2 World Championship, which Jake Sanson runs. You could also be a team manager in that if you ever so wish to do so, should there be an opening. As 1992 is being prepared, whilst 1991 is closing in on its climax. There is your race leader in your picture, Pascal Wehrlein, coming round to complete his 37th lap. Rossi, who's now 10 seconds behind, but he's clear of Oliver Rowland. Jack Aiken is less than a second behind Rowland. And it's Calderon in 5th place with Lima ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher's best hope really is going to be finishing in P7. The gap he's got currently over Takuma Sato as he crosses over the line. We'll give you an update on the gap. And the gap between the two is 4 seconds. Now with 7 laps to go, I think Mick will have enough time to pull out that 10-second cushion over Takuma. There's also the fandom page. You can keep up to date with the drivers and team standings for both Leagues 1 and 2. We are seeing a battle for 3rd place hotting up between Oliver Rowland and Jack Aiken. Now, are we going to see Aiken pull into the slipstream on the Zach speed as they come through the kink of turn 11? No change just yet. Aiken is closing in. I can tell you that Lima is getting through on Calderon on track. He is carrying that penalty over him, remember. But that's not change. Oh, is that a problem for the Saxby? Or did he just lock up? I think that was a lock up from Oliver Rowland up ahead. So we've seen a replay of the Brit locking up into turn 13. He just locked up. He was very lucky to stay in front of Aiken. But that won't have done the tyres any good whatsoever. So Aiken very close now. And Schumacher's gap over Sato is 5 seconds pretty much. And Jake Dennis, as it stands, will fall out of the top 15. Unless he can get a move on. With the time penalty that Lima has, he will only drop back 1 position. But I think we're going to see an overtake from Aiken very shortly on Rowland. It's just a matter of time. He hasn't got a lot of time. We've got 6 laps to go. Here he goes into turn 9. Is he going to go for the move? There it is! Aiken up the inside of Rowland. And the Brit goes up into 3rd place for Force India. That will give Ed Spencer to punch over the desk about. That was brilliant, brilliant overtaking from the Brit. And now Fabio Lima looks to try and make a move on Rowland. This is important that he gets through here. Doesn't get through on this occasion. And all the battling going up ahead is allowing Mick Schumacher to close in, as is Tatiana Calderon. Rowland down to 4th place, and Kamiya Sato is out of the race in the Dome. It's been a very low-key race for him, and it's front suspension failure for the Japanese. So close to the end. I don't feel they've completed enough laps either to be classified. Sato out of the race then in the Dome. It's been a disappointing day for David Yunt again. That's the 3rd driver to retire from the race. We're on lap 40. 5 to go. Calderon is running in 6th place behind. Lima all over the back of Rowland. Calderon who had locked on, that will allow Mick to close in a little bit. Mick is 5 seconds behind Calderon. Rossi continuing on in 2nd place, looking very, very good. And now Lima is very much within play to get the move done on Rowland on track. This may be hardly relevant, but Lima is through on the road. And he goes up into 4th position in the Carlin. Rowland down to 5th, although he may try and fight back with the slipstream on this back straight. Is Lima going to shut the door? He is going to shut the door. So Lima stays ahead. Rossi continuing on in 2nd position. 11 seconds off the lead, but he won't be worried about wanting to catch Verline. I'm sure he'll want to catch Verline, but 2nd place to have taken at the beginning, considering how his season has been going so far. Now, Rossi, he's won in the past in the Grand Prix World Series in Yongam in Season 2. So far this season, he's had a DNF in Sepang, 7th in Yongam, 3rd in Sentul, 16th in Fuji, and a non-finish in Kyalami. The gap between Mick Schumacher in 7th and Takuma Sato in 8th is 7.2 seconds. The last time I saw on the pit straight. We're just waiting on a gap now, and the gap is 7.5 seconds. 4 laps remaining. The only thing for Schumacher is that he will not want to get held up by Calderon. And Lima is closing on Aiken in the battle for 3rd place on track. Looking to minimise the damage. Worst case scenario for Lima is 6th place. Ride on board with Mike Conway, who's down in 18th position. I think he's about to be overtaken by Lucas Di Grassi, who's just got through. So that's a change in position. And behind Conway is Brendan Hartley. Here's the battle for 3rd place with 3 laps left. As it stands with the time penalties for Lima, Schumacher and Dennis. Lima will drop to 6th. Schumacher will drop to 8th. And Dennis will drop to at least 15th position. There's still a little bit more time left for Schumacher to make up the gap on Sato. The gap between the two is 8.3 seconds. Schumacher just needs to find a little bit more. Pascal Wehrlein, who's coming around to complete his 42nd lap, is 2 laps away from his maiden Grand Prix World Series victory. It had been a long time coming for the German, but he has been in control of the race. Thoroughly deserves it. Teammate Marcus Ericsson is outside the points in P11. Doesn't look like he's going to be collecting the championship point after all, unless something drastically happens in the last couple of laps. Just the 3 retirements: Kamiya Sato, Dan Tixon and Teo Pourchaire. And I think 23 finishes will be the highest number of finishes in the Grand Prix World Series race. Can't remember off the top of my head what the highest has been. It might have been 21 or something like that in Taupo last season, but I could well be wrong. Although Bathurst in season 1 we saw 20 cars finish the race. But I think 23 will set a new record. There are the 2 Rams in 14th and 15th. Schumacher in 7th, Sato in 8th. The gap between those two is 9.1 seconds. There is Rossi in 2nd. Lima is ahead of Aiken for your information on the track. Lima is still up into 3rd place. Aiken won't be too fussed about that. Pascal Wehrlein has started the final lap of the race now. Alexander Rossi in P2. Lima P3 on track, but will drop back to 6th position after his penalty has been applied. It is subject to appeal, of course. So, Perry Brown, who is in charge of the Carlin team, could appeal Lima's penalty. The problem with that is, if it goes against him, the penalty could be even worse. So it's up to him how he wants to play that one. There's your race leader, Pascal Wehrlein, over 13 seconds in front. The checker flag is within sight for the Von Mattel driver. He'll move up the standings radically. And it will boost Von Mattel's position at the top of the team's championship. They are looking very, very strong for promotion this season. Wehrlein has got 3 more corners to get through. And Ewan Gale can once again celebrate victory. But it's in the hands of Pascal Wehrlein, who comes round to win the lead to Istanbul Grand Prix. Pascal Wehrlein can finally call himself a Grand Prix World Series race winner. Alexander Rossi coming home in second place for LaRousse. Delight for Chris Hosey, the team manager of LaRousse. Fabio Lima will cross over the line in third place, but it's Jack Aiken who will go to the podium. So Ed Spencer can celebrate another podium finish, courtesy of Jack Aiken. Oliver Ronan will be fourth, Tatiana Calderon will be fifth. Fabio Lima will drop down to sixth place with his time penalty. Mick Schumacher has managed to make up the 10-second gap onto Takuma Sato, so he will keep hold of 7th place. Sato will be 8th, Ilott 9th, and Andre Lotterer will pick up the final point for Andrea Moda in 10th place. Ericsson missing out on points in 11th with Jake Dennis, Christian Lundgaard, Gary Paffett, Alan McNish, Jaime Alguersuari, Luciano Piquetta, Lucas Di Grassi, Brendan Hartley, Mike Conway in 20th place. And then we've got Jerome D'Ambrosio, Sergio Sette Camara, and Valentino Rossi. The remainder of the finishers. 23 out of the 26 drivers have completed the race. That's a new record for the Grand Prix World Series, most certainly. But there is your race winner, Pascal Wehrlein, on top in Istanbul. Alexander Rossi second, ahead of Jack Aiken in third. Oliver Rowland keeps up his record of finishing in the top 4 in every race he's competed in the Grand Prix World Series. Tatiana Calderon 5th, Fabio Lima and Mick Schumacher in 6th and 7th, Takuma Sato 8th, Callum Ilott 9th, Andre Lotterer picking up the final point in 10th place. Outside the points, you've got Marcus Ericsson, Christian Lundgaard, Gary Paffett, Alan McNish, Jake Dennis down to 15th with his penalty, Jaime Alguersuari, Luciano Piquetta, Lucas Di Grassi, Brendan Hartley, Mike Conway, Jerome D'Ambrosio, Sergio Sette Camara and Valentino Rossi, the rest of the finishers. Just the 3 retirements, Kamiya Sato, Dan Ticktum and Teo Pourchaire. Pascal Wehrlein picked up the points for the fastest lap and for pole position. It's a perfect day for him, and it's another great day for Ewan Gale and for Von Mittel. The League 1 race is coming up very, very shortly.
A huge congratulations there to Pascal Wehrlein for taking his first win of the season. And I think it can be said that Brendan Hartley and Marcus Ericsson can count themselves very lucky that some of their closest rivals did not score very heavily here today. Hartley and Ericsson maintaining the advantage in the championship as it stands, still on 69 points and 67 points respectively. Tatiana Calderon still in third, and Jack Aiken, his podium, has moved him up to 4th in the standing, 6 points off of the top 3 at the moment. Kimiya Sato and Alexander Rossi are equal on 39 points, one ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, whose win moves him up to 7th in the standings, ahead of his fellow German Andre Lotterer on 35. Takuma Sato and Lucas Di Grassi also keeping themselves in the top 10 as it stands, but we still have plenty of races left to run this season, so still all to play for. In the team standings, Von Mittel become the first League 2 team to move on to triple digits, 105 points for Ewan Gale's Italian team. Pacific Grand Prix are on 77 and 4 ahead of the Dome team, hanging on to that top 3 spot. Mastercard Lola on 69 ahead of Zach Speed on 65. Andrea Moda are on 58, 1 point ahead of Force India there, both of them having higher ambitions and moving into the top 3 this season. LaRousse are on 43, Scuderi Coloni's on 28, and Carlin moves into the top 10 with 17 points, with Fabio Lima's point scoring place today. But for now, we move on to League 1, and heading into this round here at Istanbul Park, it is very close at the top of the standings. Sebastian Buemi leads the way in the Leighton House on 52 points, 1 ahead of Nick De Vries on 51, and a further 2 ahead of our reigning champion Scott Dixon on 49. 3 points separating the top 3 there. It's all to play for at this point in the season. Roman Grosjean yet to win a race this season, but still there in the top 4 on 40 points in the manor. Helio Castroneves and Will Power in the Leighton Houses are on 37 and 36 respectively in 5th and 6th. Paul Di Resta, consistent point scoring, is keeping him in the top 7 on 33, ahead of Antonio Fix da Costa, Danny Junkendaya and Pato O'Ward, both of the arrows still there, hanging on to their top 10 positions. And in the League 1 Teams Championship, Leighton House leads the way quite comfortably at the moment on 125 points. Minardi are the second place team on 88, so quite a large gap at the moment. But there are still so many points to be scored this season that could all change before we come to the season finale in Laguna Seca. Simtech are on 70 ahead of Manor on 58, Arrows on 53, and reigning champion team Super Guri languishing a bit in 6th on 48 points there. Onyx Grand Prix are on 23 ahead of BAR, Prost and HRT. That completes your top 10 for the League One team standings. We have only one driver change to bring you today, as Danny Junkendaya picked up a race ban at the last round in Kyalami for his part in the retirement of the AGS of Alex Palou. So that means that the Arrows reserve driver Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, the 2012 Auto GP champion, will be given his Grand Prix World Series debut here today. We will keep an eye as to see how he gets on his debut. Could he potentially be a full-time replacement at the Arrows team? Well, that completely depends on how much he takes this opportunity to prove himself here today. Looking at the grid for the League One race at Istanbul Park, it's such a closely contested affair, this one. There's a tenth of a second between our pole sitter Antonio Felix da Costa and Will Power. Buemi's there just over a tenth away in third as well. And then we have Scott Dixon in fourth ahead of Adrian Sutil, one of his best performances of the season so far in the HRT. Roman Freins puts in a Super Guri into the top 6 there ahead of Colton Herter in the AGS. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs on his debut in the Arrows will line up 8th ahead of Roman Grosjean, and Alex Palou has put both of the AGS cars into the top 10, only 0.4 of a second away from pole time. I told you this was close. Marco Wittmann also less than half a second away in 11th place in the Prost. Sebastian Bourdais 12th in the Onyx, ahead of Alex Lynn, Kamui Kobayashi and Naoki Yamamoto, the guy who made his debut last time out, putting in 15th this time around, and he will be looking to pick up some points today. Paul di Resta 16th in the Super Guri, ahead of Stoffel Vandoorne, who's having a bit of a disappointing season so far in the Simtek, miles off the pace of his teammate Scott Dixon, and this time 0.7 of a second away from the pole time. Pato O'Ward 18th in the Arrows, ahead of Artem Markelov and Nicholas Latifi in the BAR, rounding out the top 20. And then 21st and 22nd, we have Sean Galail and Daniel Kvyat, the top 22, within a second of each other. It was such a closely contested qualifying session, and this bodes well for the race that's going to happen today. Felipe Nasr and Mahavir Raghunathan just outside of a second of the pole time in 23rd and 24th. And Nick de Vries and Roy Nassani picked up back of the grid penalties last time out, and the only way will be forward for them. I think Nick de Vries might well challenge for some points by the end of this, such is the speed of that Minardi this season. Well, we have a fascinating contest lined up for you here in Istanbul Park. To take you through it once again, it's down to Tom Cairns.
Antonio Felix da Costa on pole again. Can he convert it, just like he did in Yongam, into a race victory, or can Will Power finally bag his first victory of the campaign? We await for 5 red lights to come on. Once they go out, we'll be racing in League One in Istanbul Park. It's lights out, and away we go. Da Costa gets off the line as Will Power gives chase, but watch out Sebastian Buemi, who's coming through on the inside in the second Leighton House. He gets ahead of Will Power. Buemi up into second place, but Da Costa stays in the race lead, getting off to a very, very good start. Is the Portuguese. Roman Grosjean just avoiding any mishaps at turn 1. It's a great start for Minardi and a great start for Antonio Felix da Costa. He leads. Sebastian Buemi second, Will Power third, Adrian Sutil in the HRT getting off to a good start in 4th place. So we've got Robin Freins, Scott Dixon, who's down a position, or down 2 positions in fact, from where he was on the grid in 6th. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs on his Grand Prix World Series debut was in 7th place. He's substituting for the suspended Danny Junkendaya. Sebastian Bourdais, last season's race winner in League One on this track, is in 8th. Colton Herter in the AGS is 9th, and Roman Grosjean in the Manor is in 10th place, just ahead of his teammate Kamui Kobayashi. As they continue to make their way round, as Robin Freins looks to make a move on Adrian Sutil into turn 9, and that is a change for position. Robin Freins gets up into 4th position in the Super Aguri. Sean Galail makes a move on Artem Markelov, who's dropped back actually. Markelov not getting off to a good start. He is very much under pressure to perform at the moment for the Prost team, who have had a difficult start to the campaign. And just watching what goes on here. And actually, Galail barges Markelov out of the way. Now, we saw what happened with Jake Dennis and Mick Schumacher in the League 2 race earlier on. They caused similar collisions. And it's a 10-second time penalty for Sean Galail for causing the collision and gaining the position as a result of it. 10 seconds will be applied to his time at the end of the race. Lap 1 completed. Da Costa leads. And it's the two Leighton houses of Sebastian Buemi and Will Power in 2nd and 3rd. Robin Fines 4th. And in 5th place, I think, is the Super Aguri of Scott Dixon, who's in front of the man who was in 4th place, who got overtaken by Robin Fines. That's Adrian Sutil. I think Sutil might actually still be in 5th position. Dixon behind in 6th. Colton Hertz is in front of Sebastian Bourdais as we've got Felipe Nasr in the pits. I think there was another driver that might have come into the pits as well. Couldn't quite pick up on who that was. But either way, it's not a good start for Alex Johnston's team, who have been struggling so far this season. Just 2 points on the board throughout this campaign so far. And I will mention that the bottom 3 teams of League 1 at the end of the season will go down to League 2. And the top 3 teams in the team standings in League 2 will go up into League 1. As Kamui Kobayashi locks up into turn 8. And Marco Wittmann, who's having a better race of it so far than his teammate Artur Markelov is about to pull off a move on Kobayashi into turn number 9. And the German is through ahead of the Japanese. Wittmann up into 11th place. Ahead of Kobayashi. Alex Palou is 13th. Nicholas Latifi in front of Alex Lynn. And there's a move from Adrian Quaife Hobbs up the inside of the reigning champion, Scott Dixon. And he goes up into 6th position. Now the AutoGP champion, the former AutoGP champion, who had competed and won races in GP3 and GP2 before he moved on. And there's a contact there between the Prost of Artur Markelov and the 40 of Roy Nissany. Now what's happened here? Well, it's just Markelov making a move up the inside. And I think that's maybe looked like payback for what happened earlier on. Not that it's tolerated, of course. And there's a rear wing gone on the arrows as well. That will be... and Markel's been given a time penalty. I'm just trying to work out who the other arrows driver is. That's Pato Award, who's just come into the pits with rear wing damage. So Pato Award's race already taken a bad turn there. And he's left himself with too much to do. And he'll rejoin at the back along with Felipe Nasr. 2 drivers with time penalties already then, albeit both of them are at the back of the field. Markelov and Galeo. Although I think it was Galeo who just got... He was the one that punted into Markelov at turn 9 on the opening lap, whereas Markelov punted into Nissany, so I was a little bit incorrect with what I was saying a moment ago. And now we're seeing a move there from Robin Fines as there's an engine failure for Adrian Quaife Hobbs already. That is really bad luck there for the debutant. He's going to be out of this race by the end of the 3rd lap. Fines goes up into 3rd place, and Arrows' race is already ruined completely. O'Ward in the pits for a new rear wing. Quaife Hobbs out with a fire on lap 3. They'll want to be pulling off the track at some point in the near future. He won't be getting to the end of the race, that's a certainty. He's holding up Marco Wittmann, who's trying to get through in the Prost. He goes up into the points. And Quaife Hobbs is just slowing down now. At the end of the 3rd lap. And he will pull off the circuit any moment, as we see Nick de Vries, who has had a convincing start so far after a penalty for the contact with Roman Grosjean in the last race. But there is Quaife Hobbs pulling off, and he is the first retirement of the race. So his debut only lasting 3 laps. But it's been an encouraging sight for Quaife Hobbs. It's just unlucky he's suffered that failure so early on. Now, we expect him to be back for the mid-season test, which will be held at Dijon-Bourguignon after the French round. But yeah, it's another race to forget so far for Topher Smith. Neither car making it to the end in the last race in Kyalami. One already out and one languishing at the back after needing to pit in for a new rear wing. But we can see Paul di Resta line up and move. That is Alex Lynn by the looks of it. As Kobayashi gets overtaken by Nicholas Latifi. Latifi going up into 12th position. Robin Fines in P3 having a splendid start to this race. This is the best race we've seen from him in a long time. No, Robin Friends, who finished runner-up last season, I believe. Super Guru obviously won the team's championship. Yeah, he did finish runner-up, but he missed the last round, did Robin Friends, after a collision he caused in Buenos Aires, which robbed him of any realistic hope of clinching the championship at Laguna Seca. Scott Dixon coming out as the eventual champion. So far this season for Robin Friends hasn't exactly been as convincing. He's finished in the points on 3 occasions, but he's only picked up 15 points. Compare that with Buemi and De Vries, who've each done less races than Friends, are running first and second in the championship. Friends in third, ahead of Will Power, Adrian Sutil fifth. It's Scott Dixon. Colton Herter is now 7th. Sebastian Bourdais, Roman Grosjean and Marco Wittmann in the final points paying positions. Although Palou may have something to say on that as he gets up the inside of Marco Wittmann and he puts his AGS up into 10th place. Both AGSs in the points now. Well, for Luis Passendale's team, they are 12th with 5 points. Can get both cars in the points and they may just creep out of the drop zone. And with Forty not doing so well at the moment. HRT have had a good start to this race. They are in need of some points as well. That could push Prost into the drop zone. Oh, there's a wheel off. That's Nick De Vries, who's just been hit from behind. Now we need to see a replay of that. De Vries, who starts at the back of the field. I think he got hit by what looks like Danica Fiat, who had hit the Minardi and hit the Minardi again. Now Danica Fiat, who's only competing in his second race for Onyx, has taken out the Minardi of Nick De Vries. He hit him twice as well. Now, what will the stewards say on it? It's usually a race ban because De Vries has been taken out on the spot there. Very, very unlucky for him. And this presents a golden opportunity for the likes of Sebastian Buemi and Scott Dixon to distance themselves clear from him in the championship race. DaCosta's still in the race lead at the moment. A 1 race ban for Kvyat and a disqualification from the race as well. So Ryan Ferris, who had only put Kvyat in a couple of races last time out in Kyalami, well, he's going to be without him for the next race in Misano. Now, he had dropped Kazuki Nakajima in favour of Kvyat. So I don't know whether Kvyat will, or Nakajima will be back in the car for Misano. Or Antonio Frocco potentially been given an opportunity to race in League 1 for the first time. He raced before in League 2 for Life and he did an amazing job for them. There was an overtake there from Naoki Yamamoto on Kamui Kobayashi, who has been struggling so far in this race. He's not having the best of times of it. There's DaCosta. Well, not DaCosta, that will be Robin Friends. My apologies. DaCosta, the only Minardi left in the race lead. And it's Buemi second. Friends, who's in third place, and chase him. We're on lap 7. 2 retirements already. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs and Nick De Vries. Pato Ward and Felipe Nasser are right at the back after early pit stops for repairs. You can see there, that's the manner of what looks like Kamui Kobayashi. And behind Kobayashi is Alex Lynn. Here we go, look, there is a potential overtake coming from Robin Friends on Sebastian Buemi. And Friends, to the delight of team manager Michael Gillespie, puts his Super Aguri up into second place. A spirited performance from Robin Friends has got even better for him. And he is due up into the runner-up spot. And now he can go after his former Super Aguri teammate, Antonio Felix DaCosta. Here is an overtake from Ryan Asani getting past Stoffel van Dorn, who's been off the pace once again here. I don't know who's been suffering a problem. Oh, and that's a wheel off. Who's that? Can't quite see who that was that's lost a wheel. Is that Alex Lynn? I think it is. Oh, he's got taken out by Danica Fiat of all people. So Alex Lynn, who was suffering with a problem, just got taken out by the Onyx of Danica Fiat. He actually ran wide and broke his front wing, so that'll be the reason for it. But it's the fact that Danica Fiat didn't read into the situation and just took out the Brit. Now that is surely going to be another race ban coming his way for Danica Fiat. Lynn is out on the spot yet again, not for the first time this season, being taken out by another driver. We saw it in Yongam where Will Power took him out, which contributed to a 2-race ban after Will Power was got involved in a collision with Scott Dixon, which also saw Dixon retire on the spot. Lynn's race goes no further, so it's another non-finish for him. And things haven't gone right for him since his opening race spark in Sepang. He hasn't scored since then. And it's another race ban coming in the way of Danica Fiat. So not only is he out for the next race of Misano, but he's also out of the one after that in Dijon-Bourguignon. Or Bourgogne, I should say. So Ryan Ferris has got a decision to make. Who's going to put in the car? Is it going to be Kazuki Nakajima, as it was earlier in the season? Or is he going to give the young driver, Antonio Frocco, a go? Now, each team manager can use up to 5 different drivers throughout the season. And one manager who's used up that allocation already is the Midland boss, Alex Johnston, who has already fielded Marino Sato and Juan Manuel Correa. Those were his full-time drivers at the beginning of the campaign, but they recently got replaced by Felipe Nasser and Naoki Yamamoto. And the other driver who stood in for Juan Manuel Correa in Yongam, when Correa was given a race ban for a collision he caused with Colton Herter, was Rio Harrianto. Now, Harrianto actually did a super job, so I think Johnston may have a good few choices actually in terms of who to put in the car between now and the end of the season, but he needs a run of results. Only on 2 points after 5 rounds, with Nasser in 23rd and Yamamoto, who's having a better race of it than he did so last time on his debut in Kyalami, is up there in the top 15. There's Buemi in P3, just ahead of Will Power, and that's Van Dorn off! And he's hit the barrier, and is that him out? I think it is. Now, how did that happen? Did he lose it by himself, or did he come together with someone? I think he lost that by himself, did Van Dorn. Yeah, just carried way too much speed. It almost looked like a stuck throttle there for the Belgian. But he's crashed out, and Van Dorn's race has ended in retirement. Now, I don't know if there was anything on his dash there that contributed to the failure of Van Dorn. But he is not having a good time of it. Engine switched off, the car is terminally damaged, and Van Dorn's race is over. Another driver gone from this race, but this is a contrast to what we saw in the League 2 race, where we didn't see any retirements until the second half of the event. So far, after 8 laps, we've lost 4 in League 1. You could also count Danica Fiat as well, because he's also going to be excluded from the race results for the collisions he's caused with Alex Lynn and Nick de Vries. And there's Robin Friends in second place, ahead of Buemi, Power and Sutil. Dixon's dropping back actually from Sutil, which is a bit of a surprise, and he's under attack from Colton Herter of all people. So the 2 aces in IndyCar going toe-to-toe in the Grand Prix World Series. It's been an improvement so far from Lewis Bassendale's AGS squad, who are in need of some points. And here is Herter, line up a move on Dixon. To the outside he goes, but he's not going to be able to make the move stick. And Dixon stays ahead for now. 2.8, is that 2.3 seconds between Da Costa and Friends? I think it is. Minardi leading Super Aguri, leading Leightonhouse, leading HRT, leading Simtech, leading AGS, leading Onyx, leading Mana, leading AGS. Marco Wittmann just outside the points in the Prost in 11th position. Then we've got Nicholas Latifi in the BAR in 12th. Paul Di Resta in the Super Aguri in 13th place. And it's Naoki Yamamoto's Midland in 14th. And 15th is Kimura Kobayashi in the second of the two Manas. Not too far away from seeing any pit stops. Here's DaCosta, aiming for his second win of the season. He's already retired from a race this season, was leading. That was in Zental, when he was leading the two Leighton houses. And with De Vries already out of the race, it's vitally important that they come away with a strong result here, Minardi, because looking at how Leighton House are getting on, they're pulling further and further away in the team's championship, and in the drivers' championship, they really could do with DaCosta moving up the order, because he's only scored 1 point or 2 points in the last 3 races since his win in Yongam. Fines just a couple of seconds behind DaCosta. Now it's Super Aguri. For your information, haven't won in the Grand Prix World Series. Just looking back on my notes, their last victory, I have to go back to round 12 of last season, which would have been in Hockenheim, thanks to Antonio Felix da Costa. Robin Freins, the Dutchman, I don't think has ever tasted victory in the Grand Prix World Series yet. He's finished second on 4 occasions. And he also finished on the podium in his first race. I think it was in Fuji, when he came in later in the campaign for Topher Smith's Super Aguri squad as well, substituting for Nick Heidfeld. We're on lap 11. And DaCosta leading out in front still. Leighton House cars are running in 3rd and 4th, which isn't too bad for Chris Cavaney's team. As we ride on board with Roy Nissany behind his teammate Mahafir Raghunathan. Now, Nissany's already... I'll say he's already carrying a penalty in this race. That's not exactly the case, because he got punted by Markelov, which got Markelov that 10-second time penalty. Dave Goddard's team are staring down the barrel of relegation, given how his drivers have been performing and how the car has been performing itself. Ahead of Nissany and Raghunathan is Danica Fiat's Onyx. There is Raghunathan in 20th position. Behind Raghunathan are Pato O'Ward and Felipe Nasser. There is Freins in P2, chasing after DaCosta, and Sutil is actually behind Will Power. Sutil's showing some good pace so far as Palou gets up the inside of Sebastian Bourdais, and he goes up into 9th position. So Colton Hurts are not the only AGS moving up the order, but Alex Palou is showing his class too. And further behind, Naoki Yamamoto's got ahead of Paul Di Resta, up to 13th position. Completing that 12, Freins ahead and pulling away from Sebastian Buemi. Don't know for certain in terms of pit stops. There might be a pit stop coming in the way of Naoki Yamamoto, and there is a pit stop coming his way. So he may be able to complete an undercut on some of these drivers, because he'll probably get out in some clean air once he rejoins. So he's the first driver to make a scheduled stop. This is lap 13. Felix Da Costa's lead is 1.9 seconds over Robin Freins. Buemi third. Power, Sutil, Dixon, Herta, Grosjean, Palou and Bourdais. Your top 10. Robin Freins holds the fastest lap point at the present moment. The pole position point went to Da Costa. Whatever happens, he'll get that point. He'll want a whole lot more than just that. And Freins is closing down the gap now. 1.5 seconds between him and the Minardi driver. We'll find out what the gap is when they cross over the line. And the gap is right about the same. Wittmann ahead of Latifi, Di Resta, Kobayashi and Galeo. Galeo is carrying a 10-second time penalty for the contact with Artem Markelov on the opening lap. And Di Resta pitted in, as is Galeo, which will see Markelov and Kvyat move up the order. There is Freins, doing his best to keep up with Da Costa, doing a sensational job so far. Now looking at where the top 10 were on the grid in comparison to now, Da Costa is in the same position as before. Power is down 2. Buemi is in the same position as before. Dixon is down 2. Sutil is up. Oh, sorry, Sutil's in the same position as before. Freins is up 4. Hertz is in the same position as before. Quaife Hobbs is already out. Romain Grosjean is up 1 from his position. Alex Palou is up 1 from his position. And Sebastian Bourdais is up 2 from his position on the grid. One and a half seconds between Da Costa and Freins still. What will their strategy be? I want to see if there's anyone within the top 10 that's thinking of making a pit stop, but not so on this lap. Costa leads. Freins in P2. Got Mahathir Raghunathan in 17th position. And Yamamoto's not too far back, although he's around about 9 seconds behind. Yamamoto making the most of the track position he's got. Grosjean under attack from Alex Palou. Palou goes up into 8th position ahead of the Manor. And I think Sebastian Bourdais is going to have he's going to be fancying his chances in a moment. There is Yamamoto ahead of Di Resta. And behind those two will be O'Ward and Galeo. Felipe Naz is a little bit further back. 4 drivers out of the race so far. Stoffel van Dorn, Alex Lynn, Nick de Vries and Adrian Quaife Hobbs. Robin Freins pits in from P2. As is Alex Palou, as is Sebastian Bourdais. As is Nicholas Latifi. It's a busy pit lane at the moment. Galeo is trying to make a move on Pato O'Ward here. I think he might have completed the overtake, you know, and he has done. It's a nice overtake there from Galeo in the BAR. Rainisani pitted in for 40. Costa extending his margin up ahead, but will he respond to Frines pitting in on that previous lap? He's coming down towards the back straight as we watch Felipe Nasr, who's on his own at the back in 22nd. Costa is coming around the last corner now. As he dots into the pits in this up, or has he kept going? The answer to that question is he's dots into the... Oh, no, he's kept going as Da Costa. Almost looked like he had gone into the pits, but no. He's still out there in the race lead. Frines is behind Markelov. They'll be crossing over the line very, very shortly. Frines will obviously be on much better tyres than Markelov, as Andy's in a faster car in terms of raw pace. When Markelov comes into the pit, so Frines won't need to bother with him. Kvyat pitting in at the same time in the Onyx. Next one ahead of Frines is Kamui Kobayashi. It's another 2 seconds up the road. There is Da Costa continuing to lead out in front. Putterward coming in for his first scheduled stop. There's no way he's going to get back into the points from where he is now. It's going to be another race without points for Topher Smith's team. We just see a move from Adrian Sissel getting past Will Power. Change for position, genuine position. Adrian Sissel, who's been on fire so far in this one, has completed the move on the Leighton House. Sissel up into third place. And that's going to give John Monroe something to smile about, most certainly. Da Costa continuing on in the race lead. Coming around turn 12. As Kamui Kobayashi gets overtaken by Robin Frines. Frines through into 9th position. The next man ahead of him is Marco Wittmann, who's another 8 seconds up the road. Frines making the most of the track position. Now, Da Costa is still continuing on in the lead. Is he on the one stop? Nissani line up and move on what looks like Danny Kvyat. He's through, no problem. Kvyat, who's just pitted, as has Nissani, I think. We're on lap 18. Da Costa over 5 seconds in front. Bohemia's in second place. Sissel third. Power, Dixon, Herter, Grosjean, Wittmann, Frines, who's just pitted, and Kobayashi in 10th. And Alex Palou is behind Raghunathan. Now Raghunathan, who's yet to stop in this race. He's going to be under attack from the AGS very, very shortly. Palou's on form so far. It's clearly showing. And here we go. Look, there's the move from Palou up the inside of the Indian. Raghunathan gets overtaken. And Palou goes up into 11th place on track. There's Da Costa leading, continuing to extend the gap. But watch out for Robin Frines, who's closing down the gap. If Da Costa was to pit now, Frines would be ahead of him. And Raghunathan gets back through on Palou, actually. Making the most of the slipstream to get back through is Raghunathan. Frines has posted a new fastest lap with 1:35.4. Super job so far from Robin Frines, on form today. 4.5 seconds behind Wittmann, who is yet to stop. But I think Wittmann's going to be on the one stop in this one. Yeah, Frines is closing down the gap rapidly on Wittmann. Costa will be aware of the situation with Frines, I'd have thought. Blow making a move, there's contact! And McGunnathan has been punched off the circuit and he's out of the race! Looking at the replay, and Palou got his agents up the inside and he took the 40 out. That'll be a race ban coming in the way of Palou, unfortunately. We'll look up on the onboard of Palou. It was an ambitious move. Although you could argue that McGunnathan didn't leave Palou enough space. So that'll be an interesting one for the stewards to look at. McGunnathan retires on the spot. He goes no further. So it's another race without points for him. I don't think he's scored a point yet so far this season. We await the stewards' verdict on the matter with Alex Palou. And Sebastian Bourdais locks up in front of Palou. One race ban and disqualification for Palou. So his else not only will be excluded from this race, he'll be out of the next one in Misano. Now, AGS, who have already fielded Tom Cairns, they've got two more drivers of which Lewis Bassendale can use in his allocation. Now, the reserve driver at AGS. Well, the reserve driver at the moment is Tom Cairns, but the test driver is Giovanni Martin. There's an engine problem. It's Sebastian Buemi. The championship leader is going to be out of the race. His engine has got up in smoke. And the car is on fire. He'll need to pull off very, very shortly, will Buemi. But for the first time this season, he's going no further. And Pato O'Ward is out. So the Arrows is out of the race as well. A miserable day again for Topher Smith. And it's beginning to fall apart for the Leighton House team manager Chris Cafferty as well, with Buemi pulling to the side. This changes things in terms of the championship, you'd have thought, both in the drivers and in the team's championship. It's great news for Scott Dixon, because with De Vries and Buemi, who were ahead of him in the championship coming into this round, Dixon can take all of what he needs from this and lead the championship. And Buemi pulls off the track in the same spot as where Pato O'Ward just pulled off a moment ago. And he's the 7th driver to retire. Would you believe it? Sebastian Buemi out of the race in the Leighton House. What a shame for him. Points down the drain for Chris Cafferty's team. Willpower still going in second place. And Robin Frines is close to within a second of Wittmann. Willpower comes in for Leighton House. I think that'll be for his only stop of the race. Further back, we're seeing Alex Palou and Sebastian Bourdais. That was very nearly contact there. Adrian Sutil locking up and running wide at turn 13, but getting away with it. And Willpower, is he going to get out in front of Sutil? I think he might actually. No, Sutil is in front of him. It's going to be close. Sutil, is he in front of Power? The answer is yes, he is. He's just got in front. So that's another blow there for Chris Cafferty. So one of the Simtek's out of the race, one of the Minardis is out of the race, and one of the Leighton Houses is out of the race. And that could spice things up in the team's championship. Both Manor cars are still going at the moment. Grosjean 4th and Kobayashi in 7th. They could close in. And we are seeing an overtake. Is that looks like Robin Friends on Marco Wittmann and getting through. Robin Friends absolutely on fire in this race. Extraordinary stuff. And Antonio Felix da Costa coming into the pits from the race lead. And that will most certainly see Robin Friends go ahead of him. Don't know if there's anyone else that's going to be pitting in at the same time. We'll find out in a moment. Dixon will go through into the lead. Hertzer comes into the pits. Grosjean continues on. And Robin Friends will most certainly get in front of da Costa, and he'll be a long way ahead of him before da Costa rejoins the circuit. The bad news for da Costa, he's got Marco Wittmann in his way before he'll have to get up to the back of him and get an overtake done. Here's Kvyat, who will be disqualified from the race following the collision. And that's an engine problem for Felipe Nasr in the Midlands. He was at the back anyway. But it's going to be another race without points for him. And it doesn't look like Midland are going to be coming away with anything unless Yamamoto can get on with it. Now, with Pallou's disqualification, he would actually move into the points with Yamamoto. But Midland are another team that are struggling so much this season. And Nasr is going to become the 8th retirement of the race. And we're just only approaching half race distance. Now, we approached half race distance in the League 2 race and we didn't have a single retirement. In the League 1 race, we've had 8. Plus 2 disqualifications. Unbelievable. And goodness knows what could happen between now and the checkered flag. Nasr retires with an engine failure. Friends is in 3rd place, closing on Grosjean, who's yet to make a pit stop. Dixon in the race lead. And we are seeing a battle between Kobayashi and Sutil. And Power is closing in behind as well. Kobayashi is still yet to pit. He's in front of the German. Behind Sutil and Power are Bourdais and Palou. Da Costa is in front of Wittmann into 4th place, and he can go after Robin Friends. We're going to see a replay of the overtake from da Costa, and he gets through on Wittmann, no problem. Wittmann has had a respectable race so far, desperate to improve his performance. You look at Grosjean, who's continuing on in 2nd position. Miller could get a good haul of points here today. Make the most of the one-stop strategy for both Grosjean and Kobayashi. Won't be too long before we see both of them in the pits. This is a great opportunity for HRT and AGS and possibly Prost as well to pull further away from the drop zone, as we see a move from Sutil on Kobayashi, and that move was expected. Sutil up into 6th position. Power looking to get back, looking to make a move on Kobayashi. Now we're going to see an overtake here. Power gets through on Kobayashi. He gets through as well. Kobayashi down safe as Dixon pits in, as does Grosjean. So Robin Friends takes the lead of the race in League 1, with da Costa running about 7 seconds behind him. So is it Friends' race to lose? I think the gap actually is 3.7 between him and da Costa. Wittmann has stayed out in the Prost, which is interesting. He's not currently fighting with anyone. Here's Kvyat locking up again in the Onyx. There's your list of retirements. Felipe Nasr, Sebastian Buemi, Pato Award, Mahathir Raghunathan, Stoffel van Dorn, Alex Lynn, Nick de Vries and Adrian Quaife Hobbs. Yamamoto's just been overtaken as well. And looking at the gap he had, is he nursing a problem as well? Because he was in front of De Resta, Galeo and Markelov. And Latifi's in front. Well, Latifi's just in front. And yes, Yamamoto's retired. So that's the second Midland gone from this race. So I was right all along. It's a mechanical issue for the Japanese. And it's a loose wheel on the rear right. So it's another race without points for Midland today. It's going from bad to worse for team manager Alex Johnston. There is Marco Wittmann running in third place on track. Doesn't need to worry about cars behind. The next car behind him is Will Power, who's another 7 seconds back. And Wittmann heads for the pits from third place. And Grosjean gets a move done on Nicholas Latifi. So he's through, no problem. And Frines continues on. And Kobayashi also pitting in. Wittmann will rejoin in 14th position, I would have thought. He'll rejoin in front of Nissany. So at least it gives Wittmann an opportunity to get back into the points later on, once those on the 2 stop come in again. Frines leads. DaCosta second. Power third. Sutil fourth. Bourdais fifth. And it's Palou who is going to be excluded from the race result for the collision with Mahafira Raghunathan. He's in P6. Scott Dixon is 7th. Head of Colton Herta 8th. Roman Grosjean 9th. Nicholas Latifi in 10th. Sean Galeo would inherit the last point, but he's got a 10-second time penalty for the collision with Artem Markelov, and Markelov has a 10-second time penalty for the contact with Roy Nissany, which would therefore see Paul di Resta move up into the points. "19 laps to go." DaCosta's gap behind is 3.5. Well, the gap between Frines and DaCosta is 3.5 seconds, and then it's another 10.5 seconds to Will Power in third. Now, Sutil's 4th place would give HRT 12 championship points. They'll very much take that. That would see them move in front of Prost, unless Wittmann can improve their score quite drastically. There is a good chance for Wittmann to get a points finish out of this. He hasn't had a lot to celebrate so far this season. It's been a very strong race for Super Aguri today. The last time they won was in Hockenheim last season when Topher Smith was in charge of the squad before he moved on to Arrows. Michael Gillespie, who was previously the Midland team manager, after the team initially went down, they were given a reprieve to allow back into League One following the demise of BMS Scuderia, Italia and Life. He's now in charge of the Super Aguri squad, filling in the vacancy as Frines comes in for his 2nd stop of the race. Markelov gets a move. Well, it almost like he was going to get a move done on Galeo, but didn't quite work out. And Frines has left his box. Power and Suter will go in front of him, as will Dixon, as will Palou. Wittmann locks up into the last turn. Keeps it on track. Frines rejoins in 8th behind Grosjean. Galeo pits in, which allows Markelov clear. And di Resta. And Bourdais in the pits as well. And there's Felix da Costa, or Antonio Felix da Costa in the race lead still. 11 seconds clear of Will Power. Sutil 3rd. Dixon, Palou, Herter, Grosjean, Frines, Latifi and Markelov. Costa has already won this season in Yongam. He also won last season at Hockenheim for Super Aguri. And there's an overtake there. And is that... Couldn't quite tell who that was. It was on an AGS that he got through there. Might have been... Was that Scott Dixon that got through on... No, it can't have been Scott Dixon. It must have been the other one that got through on Herter maybe. That might have been Roman Grosjean. Either way... We're seeing Sebastian Bourdais, who's running in 16th position after his final stop. And Da Costa continuing on. He'll be in the pits before this race is over. Latifi pits in from 9th place. And Herter looks like he's carrying a problem because he's already passed the pit lane. And I think it's going to... Oh, he's just been overtaken by Robin Frines. I think that's probably what I was looking at. I was looking at the graphic, actually, thinking, hang on, is there something wrong with Herter? No, it's not. It's the fact that Frines has just got in front of him. So I do apologise for coming out with what I've just said there. There is Will Power in 2nd place. Adrian Sutil in 3rd. Now HRT, who went up with Leighton House from last season in League 2. Now, HRT's last victory, which would have been in League 2, that was back in Estoril last season. He also tasted victory with Alex Lynn in Magny-Cours and Adrian Sutil in the Birmingham Super Prix. And also with Sutil in Adelaide. So Sutil already a 3-time race winner in the Grand Prix World Series. It's unlikely he'll make it his first one in League 1 and 4th overall, but you never know. Given the race of attrition we've had so far, anything can happen. And it usually does. And there's Nicholas Latifi under pressure from his teammate Sean Galeo, who gets through ahead of him. And Galeo goes through up to 14th, but he's got that penalty hanging over him. It's a shame for Alex Palou, who's running up there in 5th place because he's got that disqualification. Now that is subject to appeal, of course. And I wouldn't be at all surprised. If team manager Lewis Bassendale decided to appeal that, because he may feel that Rigonathan cut across on Palou when Palou was on the apex to turn 7, of which Will Power has just gone through. There's Da Costa in the sole surviving Minardi. Running in the race lead, but he won't be in the race lead once he comes in. Roman Frines is right behind Grosjean. He's about to complete a move on him into turn 9. And through he goes, up another position for the Dutchman. Yet to win in the Grand Prix World Series. He's finished on the podium on a total of 5 occasions, 4 of which being second places, but has never tasted the race-winning champagne. And now we are seeing Palou coming into the pits for his final stop. That will release Robin Frines. Will Power continuing on in the sole surviving Leighton House. After Sebastian Buemi had retired earlier on with Mechanical Gremlins, Martin Markelov coming in also in the Prost, which should see Roy Nassani move up into the points. Well, not anymore because he's coming in also. Kobayashi goes up to 9th, and Sebastian Bourdais will be in 10th. There's Adrian Sutil, who's behind Will Power. He's ahead of Scott Dixon. Now, as it stands in the championship with the positions as they are, as far as the drivers that is, With Buemi and De Vries both not scoring today, Scott Dixon's 4th place would be enough to see him move in front of the pair of them, and will therefore move into the lead of the championship. Will Power, who looks to be on course probably to finish 3rd. If he was to finish 3rd, that would give him 15 championship points. He'll be tied on points with De Vries, but De Vries will still be in front of him on countback, and so he won't be in front of Buemi either. Grosjean, who we've not spoken too much about so far this season, has been in good form at the moment. He's finished in the top 4 in the last 3 races. He's running in 6th position in the manor. He's done his only stop of the race. We expect him to go to the end. We expect... Although for Robin Fines, are we going to see any more pit stops? Because DaCosta, Power, Sutil and Dixon, I think, might have made their one and only stops, but we've still got a little bit of time yet, so give it a few laps to see if they do actually decide to come in. When they do come out, though, they will be on much fresher tyres than Fines, most particularly DaCosta. There is DaCosta continuing on. Got the pole position point, as well as where he is at the moment. It's unlikely he'll win this race, but we'll see how quick Fines makes his way through the field. Well, unless DaCosta decides to go to the end of the race with what he is on. I mean, anything can happen from here on in. And you can see Will Power, who's 12 seconds behind the leader. Adrian Sutil's another couple of seconds back in 3rd. Dixon 4th. Fines 5th. And it's Grosjean, Herta, Wittmann, Kobayashi and Bourdais. Wittmann doing a good job so far in the Prost. They are in need of some points, and Wittmann is doing himself no harm with what he's doing currently. And Galeo coming into the pits for BAR. I'm not sure if that's a scheduled one, to be honest with you, but he'll drop to the back of the pack. "13 laps remaining in this race. DaCosta continuing on as Sutil is under threat now from Scott Dixon. Sutil's pace has dropped a little bit. And Dixon will be right at the gearbox of the German very shortly. And DaCosta continuing on in the race lead. Staying out for another lap. Is he going to be the one coming away with the victory champagne? Sutil 3rd, ahead of Dixon. Power looking good for his 3rd second place finish of the season. We are riding aboard with one of the 40s. Well, it's Roy Nassani, because Mahavin Raghunathan is already out. And Sutil is very much under threat from Dixon now. I think some amount of time before Dixon does make his move, but he's got Fines closing him down as well. Now, Dixon won't go for it on this occasion, I don't think, but he may do it on the back straight, which is just after the kink of turn 11. Through turn 10 they go. through the kink. And I don't think Dixon's going to go for it on this occasion. It's just too far back. Friends isn't too far behind. He'll want to get in front of those very, very quickly. But it's looking good for Antonio Felix da Costa. Making the one-stop strategy work so far. But never say never until the checker flag. It's not over until that checker flag is out. $11 laps remaining into the final quarter of this League One Istanbul Grand Prix. Da Costa looking good for his second win of the season. Minardi will close in on Leighton House in the Teams Championship. There we can see Sutil and Dixon. And I think Dixon's going to get a move done on Sutil very, very shortly here. We want to go back to that battle. Here is Dixon diving up the inside of Adrian Sutil. Into turn 9, and the Kiwi is through and up into third place. Sutil's hold on the podium spot has come to an end. And Dixon is through no problem. Up to third place he goes. And behind Sutil is Robin Friends. It looks to make a move. Burst contact made! And Sutil's off! Now, Friends bars his way through that. It was a late overtake into turn 12. They came so far back, and contact was inevitable between Friends and Sutil. And I imagine that Friends will be given a time penalty for that. Now, we saw what happened in Kyalami with Nick de Vries, who got a back of the grid drop as well as a time penalty in for Friends. It's just a 10-second time penalty. So 10 seconds will be applied to his time. And Sutil's dropped back, and Grosjean is closing in on Sutil. So if Friends is going to keep hold of that fourth place, he needs to probably get in front of Dixon and pull further away and maybe get in front of Power. And he hasn't got a lot of time to do that. John Munro will not be very happy with it, but at least the penalty's been dished out to Robin Friends. It was looking good for victory, and now he's just not going to have the pace to catch Da Costa for the race win. Unless something goes wrong on that Minardi in the closing stages. Now, Alex Palou is in front of Sebastian Bourdais into 10th place on the track, but he is carrying a disqualification over him, so Bourdais would actually go back into the points as it stands. Roy Nissany and Sean Galeo, the last of those still running. Yamamoto, Nazar, Buemi, O'Ward, Ragunathan, Van Dorn, Lynn, De Vries and Quaif Hobbs, the 9 drivers out of this race so far, plus Danica Fia and Alex Palou, who will be excluded from the race results for the collisions that took out other drivers. Other penalties as well, that Friends has got a 10-second time penalty, as do Artem Markelov and Sean Galeo. And Friends is less than a second behind Dixon. Vitally important he gets in front of him here. The 10-second time penalty for Friends as it stands would drop him behind Colton Herter in 7th. And Alex Palou's got in front of Kamui Kobayashi as well, but that's little consolation for the Spaniard. Now the time penalty for Markelov will drop him behind Latifi and De Resta. So he would fall to 13th. Because of Palou's disqualification. I'm not sure if Sean Galea would lose any positions, to be honest with you, because the only driver behind is Roy Nissany. I'm sure that Nissany is more than 10 seconds back, but I could well be wrong. Well, I can tell you that Frines is now in front of Dixon. Frines has got past Scott Dixon into 3rd place on track. He did it into turn 12, and that's another overtake done. Frines can get the hammer down and go after Will Power. 8 laps to go. We'll go back to saying about Roy Nissany. That's Roy Nissany there, who's in front of Galea. So even with the time penalty, Galea wouldn't actually lose any positions. At least AGS will get, well, as it stands, with Frines' penalty, Herta would be in front of him, but I think Frines will pull enough a gap on Herta. So Herta will still get 6 points from this, which will be handy for Lewis Bastondale. No more pit stops are expected now, so Antonio Felix da Costa looking very good for the race win. Very handy for team manager Giacomo Pagliaro. Enjoying his time in the Grand Prix World Series, in charge of this team. Minardi, who are of course one of those most experienced teams to never win in Formula 1. Already a 3-time race winning team. The first of which Marc Gené had achieved in Taupo in Season 1 when Alex Goldschmidt was in charge. This season, Da Costa won out in Yongam in the hands of Giacomo Pagliaro, and he's about to do so again for him in Istanbul. There's an overtake from Sebastian Bourdais on Kamui Kobayashi, and that's a genuine change for position. Bourdais in front of the Japanese. And at least that's going to be a couple of points going in the way of Ryan Ferris, which will be something to take from this race, something positive. Nissany getting through on Kafia on the track. He's up to 15th. Will Power, meanwhile, is in 2nd place. Frines closing him down all the time. As it stands with Frines' penalty, he would fall behind Dixon, Sutil, Grosjean and Herta. And if he's even more unlucky, he could fall behind Wittmann if Wittmann can keep up with his pace. Wittmann closing him within 2 seconds of Herta in 8th place. Not long to go in this one. It was all looking good for Super Aguri, and then it just fell apart with Frines' clumsy manoeuvre on Sutil at turn 12. Paul di Resta at the moment is not going to be picking up any points today. So there are the field coming through there. There's Frines trying to pull away from Dixon. But you can see Sutil and Grosjean in your picture. Pillow running in 9th, ahead of Bourdais and Kobayashi. Markelov 12th. His 10-second time penalty would drop him behind Latifi and di Resta. So you could do with getting a move on as Markelov if he wants to just keep hold of that place. Frines beginning to pull away from Dixon. He's 2.3 behind Will Power. As it stands with the penalty, he would only drop to 6th position. He's pulled out enough of a gap on Colton Herta in 7th, who's going to be under attack from Marco Wittmann in a moment. Wittmann, who's 1.2 seconds off the American. 5 laps to go. DaCosta has a lead of 14 seconds over the others. It's been a splendid drive from the Portuguese, who is going to throw himself in championship contention with this result. Now he'll be on 2 wins for the campaign and looking very, very strong, as are Minardi, who are clearly doing everything right. Got the driver lineup spot on. I mean, Jean-Luc Verne, who did a reasonable job at the beginning of the season before Nick de Vries came in for him. Will we see Jean-Luc Verne in the Grand Prix World Series later in the campaign? There is Frines, continuing to pull away from Dixon and closing in on Will Power. Oh, that's a problem for Marco Wittmann. Oh, what rotten luck for the Prost team. In 8th position, Wittmann is out. That's a terrible shame. Palou goes through, Bourdais goes through, Kobayashi goes through, Markelov, Latifi, De Resta, Nissani, Kvyat and Galea will go through. No points for the Prost team, it seems, today. Now, Palou, who will currently be excluded, that will promote Markelov into the points, but Markelov's time penalty will drop him behind Latifi and De Resta. So that will take some pressure off Colton Herta, who's running in P7. Four laps to go. I think Wittmann's completed enough laps, though, to be classified as a finisher, so at least that's some prize money going in the way of the team manager of the Prost team. Right on board with Kobayashi, running in P10 on track. As it stands, will go up to P9 once all the penalties and disqualifications have been applied. DaCosta continuing on in P1. Will Power looking good for 2nd place. Scott Dixon looking good for a podium as well. Adrian Sousa looking good for 4th position. Grosjean will go up into 5th. And Frines, with his penalty, as it stands, will drop behind Grosjean in 6th. And just in front of Colton Herta. Roy Nissany now in 14th position, being chased by Danny Kvyat. And there's Will Power in 2nd place. Fry's not really closing in much on the Australian. And the gap that Frines has... Oh, and that's Sutil locking up in front of Grosjean there. And that's not going to help Sutil's chances. And that's going to allow Grosjean to close in a little bit more. And that's an engine problem. Is that Colton Herta's engine going up in smoke? It is! Disaster for Lewis Bassendale and for the AGS team. Palou, who's set to be excluded from the race result for the collision with Mahavir Raghunathan. Colton Herta, 3 laps on the flag, 7th place, 6 points that he so desperately needed, down the drain. Unbelievable. Palou will go through on the track. Bourdais will go through. Kobayashi will go through. Markelov's points position will be taken away by Nicholas Latifi as well. And Kvyat is also out of the race in the Onyx. He's pulled to the side with a problem just on the exit of turn 12. He was going to be excluded from the race result anyway. And he's out of the next 2 races in Misano and Dijon-Bourguignon. He's Herta pulling off the track. So Bourdais will be 7th as it stands. Kobayashi will be 8th. Markelov's time penalty. He's actually now right behind Kobayashi as Markelov. So if he can get his skates on and get him moved on, he might have a chance of getting into the points. He's finished in the points already this season in Fuji with a 7th place finish. And in fact, he's got in front of Kobayashi now as Markelov. Up to 9th place he goes on track. Next man ahead of him is Sebastian Bourdais, who's another 3 seconds up the road. It's all transpiring for a number of drivers. Power 2 seconds in front of Franz on the track. Just 2 laps remaining here in Istanbul. 14 drivers left in this race. Sean Galel in 14th. 7.5 seconds behind 13th place man Roy Nissany. Will Power didn't quite go through turn 8 as sweetly as he had liked to have done. Now Sebastian Bourdais is just in front of Markelov. The gap between those two is less than 2.4 seconds. Antonio Felix da Costa is about to start the final lap of the race in the Minardi. He comes through, starts the last lap, and there should be no problems for him between now and the checkered flag. He'll enjoy these last 5 kilometres. Rodney Frines, as it stands, will drop to 6th behind Grosjean with his penalty. It's not going to do anything about Will Power ahead. Will Power's 2nd place is very much safe, unless he makes a diabolical mistake. As Bourdais locks up, and Markelov will be encouraged by that. He'll continue to close in on the Onyx. Now, if it wasn't for that penalty, Markelov would be enjoying a good points finish today, but it looks as though he's just going to miss out. In more important matters, Antonio Felix da Costa is half a lap away from seeing the checkered flag. Through the kink for the last time. Coming towards the hairpin of turn 12 for the last time. And he's got turn 13 and 14 to head through for the last time. It's been a captivating performance from Antonio Felix da Costa, a convincing one. And he's going to come round and take his 2nd win of the season. Antonio Felix da Costa wins the League One Istanbul Grand Prix and fires himself into championship contention. Will Power will come home in 2nd place, another podium for him. He's most certainly in the championship fight too. Robin Fines over the line in 3rd on track, but will drop to 6th with his 10-second time penalty for the contact with Adrian Sutil. So Scott Dixon goes to the podium, Sutil 4th, Grosjean 5th. And it's Fines who will be classified in 6th. Iceblow will cross the line in 7th, but will be disqualified for the race for taking out Mahafir Raghunathan. That is subject to appeal, of course, but that is what is currently what it currently stands at the moment. Bourdais will be 7th then. Markelov's time penalty will drop him out of the points, so Kobayashi will be 8th, Latifi 9th, De Resta in 10th, and then Markelov will drop down to 11th, ahead of Roy will be 12th, with Galeo, the last of the finishers, in 13th place. But it's victory for Antonio Felix da Costa and for Minardi, for Giacomo Pagliaro in Istanbul. What a job from the team. Will Power 2nd for Leighton House, ahead of Scott Dixon in 3rd for Simtech. Adrian Sutil, HRT's best result of the season so far in 4th. Roman Grosjean 5th, ahead of Robin Fines, who drops down to 6th for his penalty. Sebastian Bourdais, Kamui Kobayashi, Nicolas Latifi and Paul Di Resta making up the point scorers. Artur Markelov just missing out in 11th after his penalty was applied. Roy Nissany 12th. Sean Galeo, the last of the finishers, in 13th place. Colton Hertzer retired but still classified in 14th. Marco Wittmann retired but still classified in 15th. Naoki Yamamoto, Felipe Nasser, Sol Van Don, Alex Lynn, Nick de Vries, Adrian Crave Hobbs, Alex Palou, Danny Kafia and a lot of the others like Maher Raghunathan and those who have retired as well. Robin Fines got the point for the fastest lap, and the point for pole position went to Antonio Felix da Costa, your race winner. Well, that had more in it than the League 2 race, and it's totally changed things in the championship as far as I'm concerned. How has that changed things? Well, I think Topher Smith is the man to run down for you on just that.
An absolutely fascinating encounter today in the Grand Prix World Series. The League One driver standings have been turned on their head a bit as Scott Dixon moves back into the lead of the championship with a third place finish here today. 9 points ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, our race winner today. He moves himself up into second place, and this is beginning to build up to a crescendo as we look forward to the second half of the season. Will Power is in third, 2 points ahead of Sebastian Buemi, who came into this race leading the championship, but their retirement has now put him down to fourth, 12 points off the lead of Scott Dixon. Nick De Vries is in fifth in the second Minardi, ahead of Roman Grosjean in the Manor, still consistently scoring points, and is up there in sixth as a result. Castro Neves still not racing at the moment, down into seventh, still ahead of Paul Di Resta though in the Super Guri on 34th, and both of the Arrows drivers of Danny Juncadella and Pato O'Ward clinging onto the top 10 in the standings. Juncadella not racing today though, and his replacement Quay Fobbs unfortunately retiring out of a point scoring position. And a quick look at the team standings. Leighton House still leads the way now on 143 points. Minardi now also into triple figures as they are on 114 after today's victory. Simtek third on 85 ahead of Manor on 72. Super Guri holding on to fifth on 58 points ahead of Arrows on 53. Onyx Grand Prix on 29. BAR's on 21. HRT on 18, and Prost now moves into the top 10 on 12 points. Their team principal, Tom Cairns, will be very happy to see his team move out of the relegation zone for now. But still a lot of races left to go this season. It could all still happen. We still have to decide champions. We still have to decide who gets relegated and who gets promoted. But for now, we look forward to round 7 at Misano, where before that happens, there will be an upgrade window where team managers will be able to spend their prize money on improving their money, improving their reliability, and as we saw after the last upgrade window, we could have a bit of a different pecking order when we come to Misano. It's going to be fascinating to see how that all transpires. But for now, thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in, take care.